From Bossier City, Louisiana, this is the Grouch and the Brainstorm.
Episode 16. Welcome back. My name is Mike, and you are listening to the Grouch and the Brainstorm from Bossier City, Louisiana. And tonight on the show, we got Ben.
What's up?
We have Matt.
Hello.
And we have Jill.
Hey, guys.
And we have a hopefully a good episode. Hopefully we're going to have a good chat and discuss some of the things leading into the fifth step. And we probably will not get to the actual fifth step until we've touched on quite a few principles, right? And there's going to be a little difference in the way we approach this one because we need to go into it with a lot of discussion. How about that? Tonight we're going to talk about integrity, what it means to us in and outside of the steps, what integrity means to us. And you hear a lot of honesty. That's the big word you hear everybody say. What's integrity? Oh, it's honesty. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure honesty has a large part in it. And for some people, that may be, where it stops. And we don't give advice. We don't do any of that. What we do is give our experience with integrity. And any of these steps or any of the things in AA that we talk about, just quite frankly, if we talk about something that we have no experience with, then we really just don't know what we're talking about, right? I have a couple of announcements to make before we get rolling, and I'll make more announcements at the end. But I was looking at it earlier at our Spotify page, and we have a Spotify page, and we actually have some listeners in some other countries. And I wanted to look at that. We have listeners in the United States.
Man.
Yeah. If y'all remember that country, so
I remember that
it's been
one.
a long time, but when we haven't even went on tour, we haven't been on our tour of the United States, and but we also have some from the United Kingdom. Yeah,
There we go.
yeah. We have listeners in Taiwan.
Hey, Ann.
Anne.
Shout out to
Taiwan.
Anne.
Yes. Ireland.
All my people.
All of Matt's people.
Sure, there's some people I know.
You're either a golfer or a drinker.
Or both. That's what's bad.
I would imagine they're golfers.
Or you have a lot of sheep. About the only three
Is
things
that where
over
they
there.
eat haggis?
I don't
Yes,
know.
it's actually not that bad.
Oh, Jill, don't get her started.
We will take your word for it.
What? With
Me and
mashed
Jill were
potatoes and
talking
gravy, almost anything's bearable.
Me and Jill were talking about texture earlier, and the word haggis carries a bad texture with me.
I'd rather eat the sheep than the haggis. So
We have listeners in Australia.
Oh, good day.
Yeah. Just put another shrimp on the Barbie. And don't they also have koala bears there?
Yes.
they do.
Oh, our symbol. So maybe that's how the Australian crowd came along. Denmark. Everybody's trying to think of where Denmark even is. Wait, is that what?
It's on the northern side of Europe, right?
Yeah.
Right below the Scandinavian plain.
Is that where?
I was going to say that, but I'll let Ben handle that.
Is that where the Dutch are from?
Yeah.
Kinda,
Denmark.
yeah.
Is that okay? Saudi Arabia.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, not the regular Arabia, the Saudi one. So they got a lot of oil going on there. And then there's that the friendly country to the north. We have listeners in Canada.
Canada.
Yeah. So unless you guys have been taking some major vacations I don't know about, we got some listeners in 7 countries outside of the U.S. 8 countries total. So thank you to anyone who listens to the show and enjoys the show. We can't begin to thank you enough. Just for even if it's one person listening, and that's amazing. For someone to be able to hear us, and I would love to hear from you. I know I don't know if long distance still exists. Does it? Well, we have an email address, and I know you can email me for absolutely free at bngbosier@gmail.com. That's bngbosier@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. So more announcements at the end of this thing, and we're going to skip on over to talking about integrity. So let's look at the dictionary. The dictionary Matt, you still carry your dictionary around with you?
Negative.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I speak like the kind of guy that carries a dictionary around?
Hey, I used to carry my dictionary around with
And
me.
I believe you did.
And you speak like someone.
Yes. Yes.
And then, yeah, never mind, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben carries a thesaurus around. So,
That's
I
not
used
a
to carry that
dinosaur.
too.
I'm sure you did, Jill. Jill carried a thesaurus and a dictionary.
Well, it's electronic.
Still, whatever you said. You know, I'm still trying to figure out what dinosaur that thesaurus looks like. So.
Thesaurus Rex. That's the Rex version of the Theo. So anyway, the definition of integrity, according to this dictionary that I'm currently looking at, says integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles. A person with integrity behaves ethically and does the right thing even behind closed doors. Now there's a catch, even behind closed doors. And what does it mean to act with integrity? Acting with integrity means doing the right thing even when it may be difficult or unpopular. This means being honest, fair, and ethical in all of one's actions and treating others with respect and dignity. I would imagine that, and I'm not going to throw this word out there too much, but I would imagine someone that is in a role that has a leader above them would love to see some of these qualities mentioned in this definition that we talk about of integrity. And what does integrity mean respect? To have integrity means to be honest with yourself first and foremost. It means living up to your own standards and beliefs, even when it's difficult to do so. It also means being respectful to others, even when you don't agree with them, right? It's, what do we say? We agree to disagree or some of that stuff. So I want y'all to ponder over that. And integrity is actually the fifth principle in the list of principles. And, first off, let's go with this. To me, and I'm only going to speak for me, we do have a list of principles posted on our wall at our local clubhouse, and a lot of people do, and they're numbered 1 through 12. The actual principles of AA are the 12 steps of AA. Okay, we'll get that for argument's sake. We're not going to do all that. But the principles that we speak of are things that correlate with a step that actually come in handy when talking about that step. And so integrity, when we're talking about step 5, okay, and we know what step 5 is. Everybody on that? Okay. Does everybody know what it is? Okay. All right. So everybody's trying to go through them real quick in their head so they can figure out what step 5 is because we have them memorized.
4 was we made a list, and step 5 was when we told somebody about it.
Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being.
The exact nature.
The exact natures of our wrongs. So, Ben, why don't you ask your partner over there what integrity means to him? Matt, tell us what do you think?
My
it means?
suit.
Huh? You
Never mind.
asked
I'm
the
not gonna
wrong
say
guy.
that.
So, and the principles. This is a light program, so you can transfer this to outside of the rooms and the 12 steps. But as far as coming in here, going into AA and starting doing the steps, integrity is one of these where you start to be able to look yourself in the mirror, because there's not always a judge of your integrity that sits around and goes, you did the correct thing, you didn't do the correct thing. But as you go through the steps, that conscience and all those things start appearing. And so for me, just in the program, I go to outside places, treatment centers, places like that. They go, how do you stay sober? How do you do it? I tell them the same stuff I do. And what's always funny to me is, I go to meetings, I have a sponsor, I do the steps, I pray, I read my literature, help somebody else, all these little things that we do. And it's always funny to me when I'm at our club and then somebody comes in from that treatment center and they go, oh, you're here. And I'm like, where would I be? This is where I go, But working with sponsees, the same thing. you can't ask them to do something that I can't, that I don't do myself. And and I'll take this a step further. In the outside world and in my job and in things like that, where I'm around alcohol, I don't have the obsession to drink anymore. God is, I just don't have that anymore, and I'm so grateful for that. But I can be in situations where there's alcohol present, and I am routinely, and that's okay. But I have to be mindful of where I'm at in that picture, as far as other people around me that I might be talking to about not drinking, or in other words, not a good look. I had a guy one time, was taking him home from work, regular guy, needed a ride home. We stop at a store out in the middle of town out here, big intersection. And I said, I got to run inside. And he said, hey, grab me a beer while you're in there. And I said, no, he said, let me borrow $5. I'm going to get a beer. I said, sure, man, here's $5, regular dude. I don't care. And he says, well, if you're going in, just grab the beer for me. And I said, that's where I'm going to draw the line. I said, because he said, well, you don't drink. I said, no, I don't drink. And I said, I'm in recovery from alcohol. I said, but he said, well, you're not going to drink it. I said, no, I'm not going to drink it. I said, but here's what will happen. I don't want to walk out of that store with a beer in a bag in an intersection, and my kids pull up on a bus and look over there and say, man, my dad has got a beer in his hand. Or no matter the situation, it doesn't look good. And to me, that's the integrity part of it. So that guy went in and he got his beer, and I said, I don't care what you do with the $5, but that's where I have to be mindful today. And when I can sit there and look at myself at the end of the day and go, okay, I did pretty good. Or if I didn't, go back and make it right. That's the other part of integrity, is screwing up and realizing you screwed up and going, okay, I got to deal with this and fix it,
Even though you don't have to.
I mean, I guess you could let it go, but I mean, today I kind of have to. It bothers me.
It's the integrity of it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if it's at all fixable, So I don't know if that helps, but
well, it does. This is something that I know. Whenever I began taking these steps, I never sat down and pondered integrity before I sat down with my sponsor and started talking. I never, that thought process never even entered my mind, right? Just
none of the principles enter my mind doing the steps.
I know.
It never.
Right. So that's why we're talking about it now.
Right.
And whenever we'll go around the table, obviously, like we normally do, and we'll talk about it, But you said something, and me and Jill were throwing around topics the other day, and she said, a design for living. Right? That would be a good topic, a design for living. Well, and it is a good topic, and you said this is a design for living, which brings, to the forefront the part of living that is represented by integrity. How much someone is going to trust me is based on my integrity, right? My integrity is based solely on what I do, whether someone is or is not watching, right? Walk out in the parking lot. I can think of someone at the clubhouse, right? And they found a wallet, and this wallet had a lot of money in it, right? And don't know their financial situation. They could be a millionaire. They could be dead broke. They could be somewhere in between. But I'm thinking within an hour, someone had already came to me and said, guy found a newcomer, right? Found this wallet in the parking lot and wanted to turn it in because someone may be missing some money. That shows me that person has integrity.
Sure.
Right? So that's just that can I practice that in my everyday life? I'm not going to walk down the street finding wallets all day, every day. That opportunity doesn't come along very often. That's some stuff you see in the news, right?
Right.
But that shows me that person has integrity. Now, do I have the integrity to do it? Would everybody have done it? No. Heck no. Found an empty wallet.
Yeah.
Hey, I found this empty wallet. Someone may be missing these
no
pictures of their
cash in
kids.
it. What a coincidence when I found it.
Obviously, they go to the club. There was no money in it. But that shows me a great deal of integrity whenever I see that. Now can I do that? Can I live up to that? And when I get around to talk, I'm gonna talk about it, part of the fifth step and what it has to do, with, for me anyway, what it has to do with integrity and why we're even talking about integrity. This could have turned into a very boring subject, right? But it doesn't have to, because this is one of those things that needs to be talked about. And we're not anybody's that's listening sponsor per se. We're just people who have done the 12 steps and have been in members of Alcoholics Anonymous for quite a while and just want to be able to be like a reference. So, Ben, what you think on it, bub?
Well, you said that before getting in the program and doing the steps that you never really thought about integrity and the principles or whatever. Half the stuff up there when I was going through my military career and everything, that was one thing I found out, that every branch has its own couple little things that their own principles, but every single one of them has integrity on their list. Every one of them talks about integrity. And then even before the military career, my dad, which is somebody I never wanted to listen to until I got sober and I realized that he's saying shit that I should have been listening to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But all along my journey, people tried to tell me and guide me in the right way, but it didn't stick until I got ready. But integrity for me today is when I have those, I don't have a daily obsession about wanting to wake up and go drink or anything like that, but when the situation does arise and I have that fleeting thought, that I keep it a fleeting thought. I don't entertain it any longer, and I do the next right thing. Like, for the first 6 months when I was playing the dry drunk, I had a lot of ideas like, man, I could do whippets and nobody know. I could sit at home and do, yeah.
Whip it good.
Yeah. I could sit at home and do whippets and nobody really know, and it wouldn't hurt anybody, and it probably wouldn't. I wouldn't have a hangover or anything like that, and if I did, it probably wouldn't have been bad as my alcoholic hangover, because shit, I would drink enough that it was hard to get going in the morning, real hard to get going in the morning sometimes. But
it still
I don't know.
is sometimes, just because I'm getting
Dead
old.
sober, it sucks sometimes. I'm gonna be honest, 4:30's early.
4:30.
Be honest, 8:30's early.
Well,
But I don't know, man. It's just it's always been explained to me as doing what you're supposed to do when nobody's watching. And another thing, I like to stay humble when I'm practicing my integrity. Is I don't try and gloat about it. I don't try and go out and tell everybody all the great decisions I made while I was doing the right thing, because that's not what we're about. You're just supposed to do it.
Right.
I don't know. I guess I'm keeping it real simple. Just do what you're supposed to do, and don't overcomplicate it. And when you do slip up and you can fix the situation, do it as fast as possible so it's not weighing on you.
Amen.
there you go.
Yeah. So Jill, Jill's just the poster child of. Can you say that still? Poster child.
well.
Jill's the poster person of integrity. So we're not supposed to make her laugh. She's going on a 30-day laughing hiatus.
Wow, the poster child.
Poster
God,
person.
God bless. Well, anywho, I mean, integrity is exactly what everybody's already said, to me. And this is the deal. Like, I really didn't know what it was till I got sober. And to be honest with you, it was well into my sobriety. I didn't get into the principles of the steps with my sponsors. And it's something that I had to learn. It definitely wasn't something I was necessarily taught. I mean, there's like things you're supposed to do and things you're not supposed to do, but we didn't sit around and have topics and conversations about, God or integrity or morals or values or principles. Those just weren't talked about. So therefore I didn't grow up with a whole lot of them. I mean, I was not a horrible person. However, there's a lot that I had to learn with myself. And first of all, that was like getting honest, just like, It is getting honest and saying like, okay, so I haven't been, I have not been a good person, and these are the things that I do, and this is something that I need to change. But like I said, integrity, to me, it's like, just like it says, am I lying? Am I cheating? Am I stealing? And am I manipulating? Am I doing that when, in front of people? Am I doing that when I'm alone? Am I doing it at work? Am I doing it, period? And so, like I said, I had a rough start with that, as far as like sobriety, because I was not perfect. I am still not perfect. So there are some stuff that I did that was pretty shady in recovery, and I will share one of them, because I'm being vulnerable here, and that's what I'm doing. And some of you guys may be like, "Holy shit!"
Oh, let's hear it.
Let me just say, I don't do this anymore. I think I was around 3 or 4 years sober. And my best friend and I, and her, I guess her fiance at the time, or no, husband. No, it was husband. God, I can't remember. But anyway, we always would make brownies and drink milk and, just regular ones without all the business. And we used to love that. So it called for an egg, and we were like, oh shit, we don't have any eggs. And so we drove to the Dollar General or the Family Dollar. It was one of those. And I was like, okay, I'll go get eggs. And all they had was like this case of eggs. And I was like, I don't need like
You stole an egg, didn't you?
24 eggs. Mm-hmm. And therefore, at that point, there were rationalizations and justifications started flowing, through my head. Like, why would I pay for 24 eggs when I just need one? So I just kind of bent down, scooped one up, and put it in my purse, and then, walked out. And I got in the car, and my friend was like, "Where's the egg?" I was like, "You need to go."
Armed robbery of an egg.
A shitload of chicken's gonna chase them down.
Think about that movie, The Town, right now, when they robbed that bank and that. Sorry, Jill.
It's ridiculous.
Did it bust in your purse? That's my question.
Just hold up.
Yeah.
Okay. God has a way.
And she was like, Jill, and I was like, go. And so she drove off, and I could feel the anxiety just exuding off of her. And she was like, "Where's the egg?" And I grabbed it out of my purse and showed it to her, and she just started like screaming at me. And we get home, and she is like ripping me one in there. I was like, I don't need 24 eggs. So I just grabbed one. They won't miss it. And so we got home, and she told, of course she went and told her husband, and then they reamed my ass for hours. For hours. That's the last time I stole.
Yeah.
That is the last time I stole. And I think about, I did that in recovery, like quite a few years into recovery. But like I said, like, I think those first couple, I was just trying to get sober, and I wasn't practicing the principles in all of my affairs yet. And that really got me. They were pretty, there was so much shame. And that shame turned into guilt that I was just like, gosh, I'm never going to do that again. And now I've kind of gone like buck wild with it. I freak myself out if I don't put a blinker on to change lanes. That's how ridiculous it has gotten. And I do practice that principle in all my affairs. And I think it's important, because that's the only thing I have is my integrity and my morals. And that's something that I had to change. But with change, it doesn't happen overnight. If you've been doing these kind of behaviors for a while, it's not going to happen overnight.
It's almost like second nature still. You almost it's your default to do something,
Yeah, the first time I stole, I was in 3rd grade. And, and I remember like purposefully doing it. And I remember stealing lots of steaks from Albertsons, just because I wanted a steak.
Of a food thief.
Yeah.
You stole a lot of food.
You still rare items here.
It's
Stole
even
some
stupider when I
agates
was
or
in
whatever
third
that
grade.
crap was.
Well, she has a collection of porcupine quills from all over the
I
country.
stole some hummus from out of there.
I used to steal random shit from restaurants and whatnot.
Yeah, like salt and pepper shakers.
I know a girl
Pepper
one time
shakers,
that
menus, everything on the table.
you used to know.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Jay.
yeah, and so therefore I don't steal anymore. You know, I don't. There's just so many things I don't do anymore because I can't handle it. Like you said, I will beat myself up over these things about if it's a lie, if it's manipulation. Thing is, I've never cheated. I've never done that ever. That's just something, I guess, hey, look, I did have some kind of morals.
Like on a test?
Oh, shit. No.
Are you talking about like-
I like relationships. Damn it. So never mind. I have cheated. Damn.
Well, I mean, it's cheating, I guess, either way.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, I've
Yeah,
cheated
let's
all
just put them
kinds
all
of
in the same category.
I've cheated all kinds
mean-
of systems. But anywho, well, damn. Where was I? I just really just.
When was your last egg abduction? Let's talk about that. Have you moved on from the eggs?
I haven't sold anything since.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
then-
just
Yeah, and you're how long?
That's been
sober
over
now?
a decade ago, probably.
There you go.
it has.
And that was before eggs got really pricey. So, just working in a retail establishment, though, I will tell you this. I would say at any given moment, you can go in there and there's 10 or 12 cartons of eggs that are missing 1, 2, or 3.
I bet that's an old lady thing. Like a lot of old ladies are just
I could
like,
see
I'm on
that.
a fixed income. I'm going to steal 2 eggs.
It's
That's kind of
I
gangster.
know a
really.
lot of people that have stolen like food products and whatnot, but I used to just anything I needed to live, like toilet paper, soap, toothpaste, occasionally a movie or two. I mean, but that was when I was
movie or two.
when I was technically an adult. But when I was younger in high school and everything, I stole a shit ton of movies and playing cards and.
I
all
know
kinds
it
of
wasn't
dumb shit.
Blockbuster.
I've been to a Blockbuster.
Oh, okay.
No, I always I did rewind. I was.
Oh, you were kind?
Yeah, I was kind, and I rewinded and I returned my videos for the most part. If any of them stayed, it was my parents' fault because that. But I'd go into Walmart or wherever, whatever had a rack of movies and whatnot, and I'd load up my cargo shorts and I'd walk out with 20, 30 movies or whatever.
Jesus.
I had other stuff going on. I just wasn't a big load up.
I've
stuff.
never done that at all. I mean, I've never nothing. I can't think of anything offhand I've ever stolen. That
I don't even. Yeah,
not
I
that,
don't-
but that doesn't.
I probably
make me any
have.
better.
I just don't remember.
Anybody
Yeah, I
else.
don't remember anything specific. I'm sure I did something real dumb when I was a
You
teenager.
never took anybody's drugs.
I don't.
You
man,
never went to the bathroom and
I-
searched the medicine cabinet.
I'm on. Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
But
I was scared of what I was going to find. It's like,
What did I just take?
let me get out of here before.
yeah. Well, the thing is now, like, I did not care back then. So therefore I did not feel guilt and shame over it because I felt I deserved it, and things have changed now. I don't. It makes me feel horrible, just like the last time I did. Now, it didn't until I was shamed. But I think that's what I needed to like stop that. And that's important to me. I mean, I do this everywhere I go. I do this with my friends. I do this at work. If I leave work with a pen, I like freak out because I've taken state property, and I'm like, that's against the law.
Yeah.
I have stole a bunch of pens
Yeah.
out of places, but they're normally free pens.
Yeah.
I have jacked a bunch.
It's just important to me because for such a long time, I was not. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be that person again. And I'm not saying that I'm Miss Perfect or anything, but I just don't do that stuff anymore.
Well, and the thing too with integrity, I feel like is when you do whatever it is. I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm
A saint, 'cause
perfect.
you are.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
St. Matthew.
No, yeah, there's a lot of Matthews, but no saint. But no saint here. But and when you do make a mistake or you do screw up, I think the integrity part too is going, hey, hat in hand, I got to fix this, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, that's as much integrity as, because nobody's perfect. People screw up. It happens, you know? And sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally. And you realize later, oh, man, that wasn't a good deal. And, you know, you have to try to smooth it out. So,
Yeah.
Well, so integrity in our lives probably was at a minimum if we ever thought about it. I know for me it was. I'm raised in retail. How about that? So, you know, I was raised in a very I wouldn't call it a strict home, but you know, we had values. You know, there were things you just couldn't. You know, we wasn't allowed to drink. You know, wasn't allowed to smoke or chew snuff. We couldn't, you know, we just had rules. I'm sure everybody had that. Some people didn't. I get it. And there was always that one mom that let you drink as long as you don't drive.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But we were taught, you know, not to do that. So that was part of my growing up and just my existence, kind of a natural integrity. You know, it wasn't that, I don't know, whatever it is that's missing for some folks, it wasn't missing for me when it came to that. And then I've been raised in retail ever since. And, you know, in the business that I'm in, there's only one real thing that'll get you. And not only will it get you, but it'll get you long term, right? Like affect your entire career, not just a job. And that's lack of integrity. Matter of fact, a lot of the stuff we do at work, they always attach, you know, make sure you do it with integrity, right? So if somebody calls from the office and they say, we need to know how many cartons of eggs you have right now, right? And you're thinking, I had about 650 when I went in there this morning. I'm just going to tell them 650. Well, that's what not acting with integrity is. Acting with integrity is I'm fixing to go count every freaking carton of eggs, whether I want to do it or not, right? But we get to AA, and we learn that if we want to stay sober, that we have to do some things that are outside of our natural human resources, our natural desires, and staying true to ourselves and true to our word. That's just one of them. So the fifth step states that we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, if you think about it, we can go into this fifth step and tell this person, because most of us haven't known our sponsors all our lives. We can go in and tell this person anything we want to tell them, right? We can tell them as little about our life as we want to. We can tell them as much about our life as we want to. We can leave stuff out. We can embellish. We can still try to find other people's wrongdoings in what we did, right? And in this fifth step, we have the opportunity, some of us, for the first time in our life, to practice true integrity. We actually, this is more like an opportunity, not a chore, not a must, but this is probably the first time in our life, you know, and even, I guess if you're raised Catholic, you have that opportunity to go to confession, right, every so often. But for some of us, I get to go sit down in front of God, me, and another person and tell them everything. This is my first opportunity at integrity. Now, do I? Some people do, some people don't. I get it. Some people forget. Some people do. But the truth is, how good do I want my recovery to be? Right?
Yep.
Do I want to keep white knuckling it? Do I want to have something? Here's the strange thing about AA, and even I've been around for a while. I can't explain this part. I just can't. If you leave something out of that fifth step, you're not, I'm just telling you, this is something I can't explain. If I leave something, which I did, that's how I know this. This is my experience. How about that? So I don't want anybody to think I'm talking about them. I left something out of my fifth step. And I did not interject that back in until I was about 8 years sober. And I was so much happier when I told somebody that one thing, the one thing that wasn't a big deal that I left out, right? So even back then when I took the steps, I lacked integrity, or not, I didn't completely lack integrity, but there was a lack of integrity in that part. And then moving forward, all of those years, those 8 years that I hung on to it and wouldn't tell nobody, there was still some missing integrity, right? So I may be cash register honest. You can probably trust leaving me with whatever it is you need to leave, and it'll be perfectly okay. But when it comes to me and what I'm willing to look at about me,
Yeah.
I'm drawing a line. I'm going to draw a line. That's so what I'm going to do is forsake some embarrassment so that I can get through a step, but then I'm not going to reap the full rewards of it. I'm not going to be happy. So integrity in the 5th step, when we get there, is very important. At least I found out, and I found out the hard way. You know, I'm lucky. I'm lucky. God's going to do with me whatever he chooses to do, right? So I'm not going to call it luck. I'll call it I'm blessed that I managed to make it all those years and left something out of my 4th step and still didn't go crazy or didn't pick up.
Yeah, and I like that you said that, because I think that's what we're dealing here if we don't get honest and do this with all the integrity that we have, because it will lead to negative emotions. These kind of things that we fail to mention through either shame or guilt, remorse, sadness, whatever it may be. And, those fester. And it does lead to relapse and other things like that.
They do fester. I like the word fester. Yes.
And I like what you said too about it's, and the thing is, it's so crazy. Like y'all have sponsors. I'm sure most of them have had a lot of sponsees. They don't remember all that stuff, but we think it's the worst thing. They've never heard what I'm fixing to tell them, and that's where we get better. The only thing it's doing is hurting us. It's not hurting the sponsor or whatever if we leave something out. And I remember finishing mine, and it felt like, man, it was awesome. That was the first time I really in recovery was like, okay, I feel better. Like,
Really?
Yes. That was the first time where I was like, kind of cracked the door a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I remember we were going fishing, and I did it in the truck driving up there, and then the whole rest of the day, man, I was just like, that was all right. It wasn't bad, and it just that was kind of the turning point.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's why so many people in recovery say that secrets keep you sick.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Because like you said, you'll hold on to that, and, it still lives in your brain. And, we just got to get it out of our head to give it less power. Yeah.
And what's the big book say? That more than most, the alcoholic lives a double life.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm living that double life whenever I'm doing my drinking and stuff. Am I living that double life when I get into recovery? If I am, which I've often said, if I could just get it down to 2, I'd be okay, right? But am I living that? I'm practicing the same activities I was doing when I was drinking. If I do that,
Yep.
right, then and by the way, just telling your sponsor doesn't make it go away.
No.
That's right.
Usually there's some advice, solicited or unsolicited, going to come after that little session with your sponsor. But I guess the point is that the truth gets there, and we hear in meetings, we hear about the 4th step and how scary it is.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I've heard that how many times? Like a billion, quadrillion. People talk about the 4th step being really scary. I would think the 5th step
To me, it was.
would be the one that would, because we're not, I don't know how you guys do it, but me and my sponsees, we're not going to sit there and you're going to read me your 4th step and we call that the 5th step. That 4th step was just a reflection. That was a chance for you to look back at your fears and your resentments and your part in said resentments and your conduct inventory and past relationships and future relationships, and gives you a chance just to kind of get your brain ready for the truth. And you got to sit down and visit with your sponsor and just tell them, this is what's going on. And I've heard some doozies over the years. I've heard some pretty, but none of which are life changing. None of which have changed. You know what I'm saying? None of them have changed the world.
Yeah.
So why be so scared? And I'm gonna tell you now, your sponsor probably doesn't. he's probably heard it before if he's been around a while.
Exactly.
Now,
I wasn't scared doing it.
Bobby and I were going down the road the other day, and he goes, "What was your drug of choice again?" I'm like, "You don't even know what." And I was like, I had to tell him, we don't think about that in the way the individual that's trying to.
No.
We all worry. Oh my God, they're over there thinking about
Judging
me stealing that egg in the grocery store. They don't. It goes in one ear and out the other. That's not the point of it, for them to hang on to it. So.
Yeah, and what was you about to say, Jill?
No, it wasn't scary for me. I think I was at that point just like, blah. It all came out. Now, to my ability at that time, and what I could understand and what I could fathom. And that's why, you still go through the steps later on in recovery as you gain more insight and knowledge, into yourself. But I was wanting something different, and that's the first time, even when I went to treatment, I just vomited just everything, and I was just so ready to get it out. And that was there was a lot of stuff I needed to. And there was a lot of stuff just causing me a lot of pain. And that pain is something I can't go back to. And if I add to it, pain and, like I said, all the other negative emotions like shame, guilt, remorse, like that is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
That is me setting myself up for failure. And I can't do that. But not only that, I don't want to.
Right. Man, I'm gonna go back to revert a little bit to what Jill was talking about. So, change. Change is scary.
Yeah.
But you may have the perfect life, right? You may have what people think is the perfect life, right? And you don't have the courage to change what everybody else may think you got it going on, like you the shiznit, right, and whatever. But there's something about your life you just don't like. You just do not like it, and you want to change it. Do you know how courageous someone has to be to do that? Some people take another route. Seriously,
Yeah.
They just get. I'm not gonna talk about any profession, none of that out there, But a lot of the big timers in our society, right, who we think would be just amazingly happy because they have all this stuff, they're miserable. And the courage to change is something that is hard. It is hard. Like, you have to wait. So Jill, you said it, having that, I don't want to go back to that, because once you change, I don't care if it's drugs and alcohol. I don't care if it's a relationship. It doesn't matter. If it's a job, once you change, there's a part of you that wants to revert back, even if it's subconscious. And you don't want to do that. I do not want to go back to that. Do I have the courage to keep from doing that? And do I have the integrity to tell myself the truth once I've made that change? Or do I have the integrity to tell myself the truth prior to making that change, to lead me to wake up one day and say, I'm done, no more?
Yeah.
I honestly thought my life and my drinking life was exciting. Right, I did, until that very end. I thought, there was nothing exciting about it. Like, it was horrible. It was just absolutely horrible. But I kept lying to I would look at those little spots that may have been kind of fun, and when you find out what you really did, it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It's just a lie that we tell ourselves. I thought I was doing great things. I wasn't doing, like, jack. I couldn't even go to work. Like I just sat there.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we do.
I knew for a long time I wasn't doing great things, but I thought I was doing what I wanted to do, what I thought was going to make me happy. And for a few years, in some instances, I was real honest with a few of the people I was hanging with, and that was probably about the happiest time of my life. And but I wasn't practicing integrity as we're talking about in those years. The way I viewed it, based off and this was in my military career, so I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. The way I viewed it back then was that I had to have enough integrity not to smudge the branch that I was working in. So if I was doing something dirty, I just didn't need to get caught. I needed to be able to do it and get away with it, and nobody needed to know that this asshole that was out there fucking around had any involvement with the Air Force. So I felt I needed to say that.
Yeah. Integrity is, I guess it's a quality that it makes me think that people might see in their elders. And I don't want to, I don't want to, I guess when I look back at my father's father, I think integrity. And I didn't really know the guy too well. But when I hear the stories, right, you think integrity. You hear the stories about he found this and turned it in, or, just imagine knowing one of your children's doing something that's against the law. I mean, is there a line we draw with integrity? Yeah, that's a rough one there, ain't it?
Most of my kids that are listening they're probably breaking laws right now as we speak. So I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to leave that there. But.
Now, I mean, it takes, and that's not a question that we need an answer to. I'm just saying that's one of those things I have to, if I'm going to change my life, secrets keep us sick, secrets make us sick, whatever the saying is. If I'm going to change my life, am I willing to practice integrity? But you ain't got to do that all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, you going into the fifth step, maybe this is just to give you a little bit of stuff to think about, or to ponder, or if you're a sponsor out there about to do a fifth step, you may say, hey, look, I heard this on a podcast the other night, or let's talk about this. You take the credit, give it, it doesn't matter. Or, hey, you may want to listen to this podcast. These guys are talking about integrity and their experience with integrity. But I know it's not something that sometimes is easy to practice when we think about the true meaning of it, right?
Sure.
Well, and not only that, how it is seen in society at large. A lot of people will say they have integrity, but do they?
Right.
And the only way you can tell is through their actions and I guess whatever they're doing. So you can see where the lines get blurred. And it's just kind of like that with like humility and stuff. Like these are things that you have to practice. You can't just say like, I have that.
Oh, I have humility. I'm
so much.
Most humble guy I know.
I have so much humility.
But
you see
you
what I'm
said the word practice.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about football or basketball. You go to the gym during the week, you got a game coming up. Practice is where you screw up and get it right, and we have to practice all this stuff. And I like what you said about, when you did your first fifth step and you said it at that time, as good as I was able to do it at that time, it gets better.
Yeah.
And the only one you got to do 100,000,000% right is number one. You can work on the rest of that stuff as you're able to work on it.
Yeah. It took a while.
People listening, I don't want them to think, I've just got to have it down perfect on everything. No, just get step one right and start working on the rest of them.
And I think, to your point, Matt, practicing integrity is part of the fun of it. You might get a little buzz off of some integrity.
Yeah.
I hate to use the word buzz.
I had a guy the other day at work, young guy. He's in his early 20s, and he's doing really good. He's a good guy. And I asked him, did he do something on a property we were working on? And he said, yeah, I did. And I just happened to be coming to the property he was at. And when I walked over to his truck, we were talking, and I looked, and he didn't have the tool that he would have done that with. And I was looking in the back of the truck, and I didn't say anything, but he saw me looking in the back of the truck, and he realized he's going to notice this. But he immediately goes, okay, I got to back up. I made a mistake. I didn't do it. I forgot that tool at the shop, and I don't know why I told you I did. And he's like, I'm sorry. And I said, that's more impressive to me than you just doing what you did. Like, that's actually integrity, is going, I screwed up, and like that was impressive to me. And we talked about it, and I was like, that's neat, man. You'll be okay, you know. So, but yeah, it's not always the the perfect record.
Yeah, practicing, I think, is a big part of it, you know. And then maybe if we practice it enough, it'll become a regular working part of our mind, and we just do the right thing, the next right thing, or the next indicated thing.
I hope that it does, but I always have
think
to
it
do a lot of
does.
practice.
It's just like with any skill, you know, you'll stumble at first and then you get better and better, and then it just comes naturally. And you don't even think about doing it.
All right. Picking up that piece of trash off the ground just because that's what you do, instead of who may be watching me, or
Yeah.
even I'm paid to do this, just doing it because that's what you do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, when they had all the, and this is kind of a news thing, but all the police stuff that's been going on the last few years, and all that stuff was going on in the courts and the rioting and all that stuff. And I was coming back from fishing one day. It was in August, very hot like it is now. And I look over at a gas station, and there was an officer with an old lady changing her tire by herself. He's out there. He's got her trunk open. You can see her sitting in the car. And I thought, you know, of all the crap that you hear, here's actual integrity. And he ain't doing it to be on a video. He's not doing it to be on TikTok. You know, and I just that's the kind of stuff I like to see. You know, and you kind of picks you up, but.
And that's acting with integrity. It's
Sure,
just doing the
sure,
right thing, just because it's just, you know.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? That's probably the question we should have asked at the beginning of this thing. Why not just, you know, what does Jerry say? Some folks would rather climb a tree and tell a lie than stand flat-footed on the ground and tell the truth.
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, that is that is absolutely insane. But, you know, a new design for living. That's what this program offers us through practicing these principles. And if I think about it really, and I look at the principles of AA, all the way down to the 12th principle, which is service, right? Serving others or helping others. And if I do these things, it's just 12 things, really. It you know, there are little umbrellas in there, but this is just 12 things. And if I do these, I'm a better human being. And if I'm a better human being, I'm going to get a different reaction from my fellow human beings. And if I get a different reaction than what I'm already getting, my life is probably going to get a little bit better. Hence, a new design for living. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy how it works? I should have been doing this shit my whole life, right?
Yeah.
I'm 50, and I'm just now picking up on some of
Take
this.
a beating to get me to do it.
Oh my gosh.
I
What do
mean,
you think about
like-
the people that were just doing it in high school just because, like,
Oh, and we made fun of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
We had to.
literally,
Who's laughing
literally
now?
damn near had to kill me to get me to start acting right. You know,
She's
to
Little
try to
Miss
act right.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I don't know what. That's a whole other deal right there. But my brother my brother Adam, who has probably the most integrity of anybody that I know on planet Earth. He told me when I got out of treatment, he said, you know, I was thinking about you being in rehab. And he goes, I remember us growing up. And he goes, I always followed the rules. Whatever the rule was, I just followed what it was. He goes, you smashed by that rule. Every rule there was 100 miles an hour. And I was like, yeah. And I just got out of rehab. So
Yeah.
you know, there's that. So, but
and you have to follow the rules in rehab because if not,
oh,
they
man,
keep you longer.
That one I went was tough. But
Well, you know, this will bring us to a good close for this one. I think, and we'll ponder on it for a second here, but you know, as far as integrity goes, you know, when it comes to interacting with our audience, I have been not paying attention to what I should have been paying attention to. And some posts have actually popped up on our Spotify feed.
Okay.
And I published them while we were doing this podcast. I recently published them. And, Amy C. and we were talking about bad meetings that we'd gone to or couldn't, right? And I think I mentioned the one meeting that I had went to that was bad. And she posted on here. I'm not going to read it because I don't want to embarrass anybody out there. But she was apparently at that meeting that I consider a bad meeting, and she mentions a little bit about it. But and that person that caused that bad meeting actually ended up showing up in Shreveport like 3 or 4 weeks after I got to Shreveport, and I thought this was just some bad joke. Somebody was playing on me, yeah. And then Leo Lytle.
My dad.
Okay, well, he posted, "Great job, everybody. Might have to tighten Matt up every now and
second
again."
you get.
every now and again.
My dad would say the same.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then let's see, this one right here is from, I don't know who, this was on the Hayden R podcast, but Rhonda J posted, "Great job, Hayden. You never really get to know a person, but the podcast really lets you see a deeper side of a person.
Sure.
I loved your story." JGSII, not sure who that is, but they posted excellent, on that particular podcast. And then I go down a little bit more. That was Hayden R's again. Let's see. Let's go down a little bit more. We got one on Lisa's podcast back when she told her story back, and it was from Faye. And it's, "I'm really enjoying the podcast. Lisa's story is awesome." So we appreciate that. And guys, I hope you don't mind me publishing whatever you say, going all the way down to back when Kim and Rhonda were in and did that episode.
Sure.
Great episode. I'm glad this podcast exists. I learned something every time. I wish I had this when I first got sober. Wonderful resource. And then Michelle R also wrote, another Michelle R wrote, "I'm so proud of you, Kim. I love this podcast." Rhonda J wrote, "Very, very exhilarating. I pray that everyone can get a hold of the message. Keep listening for more episodes." So there was a plug for us in there. And that's just some interaction that I finally published that I didn't know I was publishing. And just for the listeners, I have added ads to our past podcast and to our future podcast. It's only one ad. I'm experimenting with some stuff, so please have patience with me. I hope I don't lose any losers. I sure don't want to lose any losers. I hope I don't lose any listeners over posting the ads. But we do want to keep this thing going on as long as possible and carry this message that some of us carry. I got an email the other day from Jane R., and we emailed back and forth for a while before we finally figured out what was going on. And I'm gonna go find it right quick. And it's from Jane R., and it says, "Y'all are awesome. Your emotional sobriety podcast touched a few nerves. The best part is that I know y'all, and I'm getting to know you better. I hate it when the episode ends. Heck, I'm an addict. I always want more. Keep it up. Thank you, Jane R." And that was our first email. Just everybody, just so you know, kind of makes me excited.
And you putting that out there too, and this is something that kind of started as Mike had this brainchild or whatever you want to call it, the idea to do this, and then something with the bonus episodes, just people telling their story. And that's one of our favorite things on here is to hear. And it's funny, people like Hayden is a great example. We know Hayden, and he goes to meetings with us, but I didn't know all that. Nope. Jill sat down and I'm like, oh, I didn't know all that stuff. And if there's people out there and you're in this area, you're able to do it, get in touch with Mike. We any type of story, there's just not any bad ones, and we'd love to get you on here and
just so there's no weirdness about it. We're just regular folks that go to meetings of AA that decided to start a podcast to share our experience. We don't think we're any better than anyone. We don't think we're any worse than anyone. We just happen to have the equipment to do a recording. And if you want to be on the show, just ask. Hey, When can I, if I have to grab Matt one afternoon and just drag you down here, we will do it. We will get you on the show.
We are very unscheduled. You know, we just roll with it. So, you know.
We have, none of us have quit our jobs because of this podcast.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, we're pretty wide open as far as a schedule, you know, and if somebody wants to get on there and we'd love to hear it. So
Yeah, and some of them are long and some of them are short. I try to keep them within an hour and 10 minutes so everybody knows that. That's being transparent. Generally, when we have 5 people, they're going to last about an hour and 10 minutes. That way, everyone gets something to say. And when we're down to 4 people, they'll be even shorter with probably more content out of one of the people speaking in the podcast. As always, we want to give our shout outs. And I haven't decided whether to give them out at the beginning of the show or the end. I think we're going to do the ad at the beginning of the show, and I'll do the shout-outs at the end. Hopefully, we'll be opening a mailbag one day. Like there's some of my guys that do a podcast, they have a mailbag at the end of the show. But always shout-out to Amy C. in Lacombe. Sent me a message the other night. She was listening to Jill talking about either emotional recovery or the one before that, and said that she felt like Jill was her spirit animal. So
Jill's a lot of people's spirit animal, you know.
I think that really touched home with a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're actually, I think it was the one before that. What was it? Don't remember. The episode before that. Yeah, character instinct, character defect.
Natural desire.
Yeah.
Shout out to Miss Faye. Shout out to Michelle. Judy and Larry, as always, faithful listeners. I think I hear something from them every couple weeks. I need to check on them. Jane R., and I did read that email. I want to remind everyone we have voicemail. We haven't got the first one yet. If you don't want it played on the air, it still doesn't mean you can't leave us one. Area code 985-377-4816 will get you to us. Nobody's going to answer the phone. Voicemail is going to pick up. Just leave your voicemail, and I have the ability to play it on the air. Our email address, I'll say it one more time. It's bngbosier@gmail.com. And our next episode, it's going to be a tough one. But it needs to be talked about before we dive off into the 5th step. And we won't dive off for a couple of more episodes, but selfishness. Yeah. Moment of silence for the selfishness. Selfish, self-seeking, self-serving.
Only one episode? That's what I was thinking.
Well, if we have 5 people, if we have 5 people for that, you know, there are people who, and I'll say this, and then because I don't want to dive off into future content, but there are people who come into AA and firmly believe with all their heart that they are the most unselfish people on earth. And there are people who come into AA and believe that they are very selfish and they want to do something about it. And then there are people who come into AA and don't quite understand what any of that even has. I'm hurting. I just need some relief, right? And, you know, so all of our content, I think, is going to cover it. It sure isn't bent to make anyone feel bad about themselves at all, right? Selfish, self-seeking, self-serving. What can we do to fix it? What's the big book say about that? All those things are what we're going to talk about. And in the future, I want to do an episode on Bill W. and Bob Smith. I just want to talk about Bill W. for an hour and then maybe do another episode on Bob Smith. Maybe one of our listeners will email or leave us a voicemail on what they think about that content. And we can even do that as a bonus episode.
Sure.
But appreciate everyone out there for listening. And I hope we didn't bore you to death with this episode, but this is one of those things that needed to be talked about. So signing out from Bossier City, Louisiana, this is the Grouch and the Brainstorm.